Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on NCBNTT. I'm Steve David and I'm your host. Today I'm excited. Why? I have with me the president of Ttfa and Selby Browne. Welcome to Selby.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here with you, Sweet Boots.
I know it's been a while we're trying to get you on the show. Finally we did.
Yes.
So we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And on this joyous occasion,
Right.
after a landslide election victory, we are all in the football family very, very happy, excited, and from our VFOT perspective, we have pledged our fullest support to the newly elected president and the executive. And I'll tell you that this is the new era, the transition to the next generation, the youth. President Kieran, another youth who has been outstanding through the 4-year term, has been young James Riggs, and another, unfortunately, she was not on the winning slate, Rennie John Williams. Those three young persons, in my humble view, represent what is the future for the reignited Trinidad and Tobago Football Association.
Okay, since you're there, since you take it there, take the conversation. I wanted to rap with you about everything.
Yeah, sure.
But let's stay with that. Let's stay with that. Let's stay with that conversation on the election. What you thought about it? Give me you have some feedback on what you thought about it, because both opponents was good. Both people were good, and that other team, what's his name, with Colin Wolf.
The Colin Wolf slate.
Very, very respectable team.
Yes,
slate that they
a
had.
very respectable team,
And
competent personnel. But what worked against them was the fact that the membership perceived that it was a slate orchestrated by the nominalization committee, and that worked heavily against their being successful. You see, those of us, we go back when? We go back schoolboy days, Sweet Boots.
Right.
And you must know the football. You must know Trinidad and Tobago football. You must know the history. There's an African saying, if you want to know where you want to go, you must know where you came from. And the structure of Trinidad and Tobago football has always been one that has stayed far away from any individual conceiving that that individual is the owner of Trinidad and Tobago football. There was a tenure during the last 4 decades that this strife happened, and it was rebelled against. And what happened during this short 4-year term was perceived as one appointee and his team being football in Trinidad and Tobago. And from that perspective, it is no one's property to bequeath or give or direct or facilitate to anybody of choosing. And that's what was bottom line a rebellion.
Yeah, you know, at the election, what do you think about the whole process?
The process?
The whole process with the election and how it started on time, man.
Oh, yes. Yesterday.
And it continued.
Yes. The actual one, the first thing that was really welcomed and heartening was the 100% turnout of the membership.
Right.
The delegates were all there. All votes allocated were cast. The discipline was excellent in terms of, I think there was only one hand raised when I had to point out to the goodly chairman that it would be necessary to kindly ask the General Secretary to demonstrate the method of folding the ballot,
Right.
which was required being
Five folds,
folded by
yeah.
5 times. Other than, and which really is a polling officer or a polling booth general practice.
Right.
But in fact, that was welcome, and that was the only thing done. The only other thing was, yes, to welcome the new president, who gave an excellent acceptance speech,
Right.
and was very gracious in so doing, and touched all the bases, ad lib, demonstrating his competence in that regard. And what was a seeming oversight was that it was not just the president elected, but the entire executive. So having done that, the next step, rather than rushing to try to close the meeting, was in fact to have the entire slate come forward to be recognized and presented as the new Ttfa.
Right. This election was so exciting for me. I've never seen anything like it because they had 2 candidates. It was like a boxing match, punch for punch, right? And there was no other person in between to take away any kind of votes or split any kind of thing. It was spot on. You punch me or I punch you. And it went down. It was like Ali Fraser.
Yeah. Mom, Rumbo in the Jumbo. In the jumbo. Listen, let me tell you. And you know, I'm glad you said that. Because on March 26th, I invited both Kyron Edwards and Dennis Latif, who, like me, were candidates for the election. And we met, it was a Sunday morning, and I said, gentlemen, this is the election, not April 13th. Once we can agree to withhold our egos and have one slate go against the orchestrated Wharf slate, you would be guaranteed that that one slate would win by a landslide. Now, I tell you, the past 2 elections of the Ttfa, 2015 and 2019, the presidential candidates, the final presidential candidates, were separated by less than 6 votes. Before 2015, what you had was Ollie Camps, who served for 20 years until his retirement. And then, for the election in 2012, on his retirement, 2 persons offered themselves to be president. One withdrew, and Raymond Timke automatically assumed the presidency.
Right.
There was no election.
Right.
And I told them, up to the night before the election, I told a certain journalist that there's going to be a landslide victory, a heavy victory by Kyron Edwards as the new president. 2-1.
From the start of that election was Dango Wharf.
Yes.
Dango Wharf.
Yes.
Because
yes.
he started off with about
5.
19 to 5 or something.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but we enjoyed it and it went well. It was very straight to the point kind of election.
Yes.
We didn't have a big AGM before or getting people tired waiting, and then we got in and we got out.
We got it out, yes.
Yes, and that was great.
Elective Congress, and it was just that. there was a slight error in terms of having an item 3 listed for a report on the performance of the normalization committee and so on, which had no place there. And I'm glad the secretary, the general secretary, observed it and removed it. So that was excellent. So we came here for one purpose, to elect the new executive of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association for the next 4-year term.
And we had representative from Ttfa, from CONCACAF.
CONCACAF.
It was good to see Kamara David there as well. I didn't see them in a long time.
As General Secretary of the CFU. So we had the CFU, we had the CONCACAF, and they had the FIFA representatives all there. And so the process was one that other sporting organizations should take a page from. Look to the Ttfa and understand that the Ttfa has conducted its business in a proper manner and has done that before any normalization committee. Yes, on more than one occasions. We also had, mind you, the observers, Dr. Terence Farrell, Dr. Chow from UE, Senior Counsel Elton Prescott was unavoidably absent with a previous engagement that he had to attend to.
Right.
So everything ran to order.
Very nice.
Everybody in Trinidad football family must be happy. But I would assure you, it is no quick fix. It is no waving of the wand. It is that all who are genuinely interested to serve what is the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago football will come forward and demonstrate that that's their sole focus, and we want to be excellent in all aspects of the business of the Ttfa. Takes a lot of doing, but once you have that commitment and the understanding that this is the sole objective, the goal, Ttfa will return to its glorious days when you played and when you were the most valuable player, highest goal scorer, although someone else got the trophy. We won't call names there. Highest goal scorer, you know?
Yeah.
And that was 1974 World Cup qualifiers, and when CONCACAF had only one spot to qualify for
The World Cup.
the World Cup. We were robbed, placed second, Haiti was first, and Haiti went to the World Cup.
Right.
In fact, only 4 countries in the Caribbean have gone to the FIFA World Cup final. They are Cuba in 1938, Haiti in 1974, Jamaica in 1998, Paris, and Trinidad and Tobago in 2006. But between 74 and 2006, and you must give credit to Austin Jack Warner for what he had done with his cap as a FIFA vice president, where he created 4 more places in the CONCACAF for the opportunity to qualify for the World Cup. In Haiti, it was 1. In 74, it was 1 place. It moved to 4 places with a 3.5. The 4th place club will play off with the Asian League, yes, to get a final spot, the winner. And then in this World Cup, which is our best opportunity, it's now 6 and a half places. Of course, you have hosting nations, USA, Canada, and Mexico. So we are still open to play for 3.5.
You left out Mexico when you were announcing.
Well, I said Caribbean,
Oh, Caribbean.
and I left Mexico out because
Okay.
they are Central America and they CONCACAF already.
Right, but CONCACAF.
If we go to Central America, it's a different story. You have several of them who have played in the World Cup, and the two countries even went to war over football to qualify for the World Cup. But we won't go there. We will deal with them after. What we have to do is get our football back to defeating those Central American teams. Back to when you played. Back to when our days.
Yes.
And as I mentioned that in reminiscing, we got news, sad news, from the football facility of the loss of our long-standing, outstanding football administrator, past player, and coach, our own Lennox Pilgrim, the Bullet.
The Bullet.
The
Better known
Bullet
as the
passed
Bullet,
away.
yeah.
Yes, and
Condolences to him and his family.
Yes, condolences to his family, his entire family. Condolences to the national football fraternity,
Right.
to the South Zone, and to his home club, Forest Reserve.
Right.
How many, back in the days, you remember with the old man, and he's driving us through the fields to go to see football at Forest Reserve. And you see, people don't know the history. Those were the days when the energy sector played a critical role in the development of sport in this country, and football in particular, with their own grounds, with their own clubhouses, with jobs, and those jobs were jobs for life based on their sporting prowess. Today, oh yes, those companies still operate, make fantastic profits, but the same isn't true.
Right.
All that, I am sure, the new president will address in the all-over package.
All right, Street Boots, let's take a break. When we come back, I need to hear more from you. We'll be right back after the short break.
Indeed. Thank you.
Change on TV, tell us I'm better stay calm, be cool.
Trinbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBNTT Television Network.
Okay, welcome back, viewers. The ones now tuning in, you're looking at NCBNTT, Field of Dreams. I'm Steve David, your host, and my guest today is the ever-popular Selby Browne. Selby, on post-election or right after, I thought the only thing I was a little disappointed, but not really disappointed, but a little bit disappointed that the slate that lost didn't come and congratulate, and the slate that won, or some kind of thing like that, because I thought it looked like though they didn't take it very well. And so I might be wrong, but that's all. Am I?
I think yes, but you see, like in all football matches, in all competition, when you prepare and you've done your best and you expect success, if you're beaten 2-1, you still go and congratulate the team. But when you have a landslide and beaten 2-1, it must hurt somewhere, you know, after all the expectations. And I think that took its toll. But credit to Mr. Wolf and his team, they issued a press release, which was circulated right after, to all the members of the Football Association, congratulating the new president and his team, and giving the undertaking to support and continue in the business of the development of Trinidad and Tobago football.
Good.
And that was good.
Yeah, good.
And they must be congratulated for that.
Yeah, so now I want us to go down the road of how VFOT, that's us, will support this new regime, and just rap about that. You know, let the people know what we intend to do or what we would like to do, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
As a long-standing member and one of the initial contributors to VFOT, you will well know the vast resources that VFOT holds within our organization. When I speak against a backdrop of an organization that is comprised of all past footballers from grassroots through amateur, through international professionals, coaches, community, national and international coaches, past FIFA referees, past medical officials, past to 116 years since the formation of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association in 1908. Some of our members have gone since we launched, several of them, past national players, past West Indies football players, past professional footballers who attended our launch at the Hyatt Hotel in 2008, who have gone on. And what we have is that vast resource that we can tap on a finger. And we are committed to providing to the new president and his executive to ensure their success. I'll tell you, VFOT, as you, yes, we have held several seminars, consultations, forums. Actually, we also attended the government of Trinidad and Tobago conference on zero employment for Trinidad and Tobago, hosted at the Chagaramas Convention Center by the then Prime Minister, Patrick Augustus Mervyn Manning, and his entire cabinet. As a matter of fact, when we got there, and I went to the table and said, I'm here for football, sport. They said, but we have no category for that. Merlin Samlal Singh, horse racing, was there for horse racing. And Owen Surratt was there for the steel band movement. And no provision was made for it. So I had a good laugh. I said, do you understand that these three entities can create all the jobs you need in Trinidad and Tobago? That's the potential of what you have. From then, those consultations have continued up till 2019, wearing the Ttfa hat, where we met, and those were public consultations with the North Zone at the Queen's Park Cricket Club, in the South Zone at Pleasantville Community Center, in the East region at the Sangre Grande. Terry Rondon was then chairman, the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation Office, and in Tobago, in Scarborough. And we have a whole package, our strategic plan, our recommendations for what it takes to restructure and develop Trinidad and Tobago football, the product Trinidad and Tobago football, to be world level again. We have it. But since 2019, it has not been considered or anything implemented because we had this the 2-year appointment of the Normalization Committee that has stretched it on to now 4 years. And in fact, the election that we held is 2 years too late. Had it been 2 years ago, and had you returned to what is the business of the Ttfa instead of doing all sorts of frivolous things that are unimportant, we would have already been well on the way to have a properly prepared national senior men's team and all other national teams. Because, and I say national senior men's team first, because that is the team by which your association will be judged and evaluated, the performance of that team. And that's another thing. We have within our resources to bring all the coaching assistance that can be provided to Coach Eve, which I am sure he would welcome. Not just his own past players and coaches who may have coached him, but the reservoir of what is today and you see the technically acceptable methods of coaching globally. We also interface with our international colleagues. In this case, I remember one time we brought down Brendan Batson, who was a trustee of the English Professional Footballers Association. All that, we have vast resources. Our good friend Samuel Llewellyn, Leroy De Leon, Alvin Cornell from that era is still alive, Clive Niles, and a host of others. Some people don't know, just like most wouldn't know our own Bullet, who passed away. But that is the vast resource base that is brought to bear for Trinidad football. And we also have our qualified financial experts, auditors, and accountants.
But nothing happens before it's time.
Nothing. So, and they're all interested in one thing.
Maybe we wouldn't have had, if we had that election 2 years ago? Kieran wasn't even thinking about it, maybe.
Yes, yes.
So, and we'd have a lot of people who want to jump into that election and water it down, and maybe we wouldn't get the best person.
Well, facts. That's a fact. Totally agree. So now is the right time.
Now is the right time.
It's the right time.
Everything happens for my mom used to tell me, everything happens for the best. And make, whatever it is, it might look like it's not good at this time, but down the road you see how good it was and great it was.
Kieran handled that campaign excellent and gave his vision and outlined the steps, strengthening the zones. The key factors, he took it up and delivered it on his own, meeting with the government ministries, not just the Ministry of Sport, DA, or National Security, Education, Social Structure, all, health, all the ministries, meeting with the unions. And this one thing that I mentioned, the energy sector and the role they played with the advent of stronger unions. In those days, back in the 50s, when jobs were created to play in the energy sector, to work for the energy companies based on your sporting prowess, there are certain persons who today are still alive, and people would tell you they are from South. One example that comes to mind is Edgar Vidal. Edgar Vidal is from Barataria and Belmont.
Right.
Not Palo Seco.
But he's living in Palo Seco.
For years. And he turns around and trains persons to replace him on the job, and so on. And Alvin Cornell was a driller at TPD. Right. You remember TPD with their ground opposite the Guapo police station? Jim Lowe. Yeah. With his tall mafia, green jersey, lily white pants. That same forest reserve with Baker, C.P. Browne, Grant.
Still in Paris.
Still in Paris. Entertaining football. Thousands and thousands, according to a certain Trinidad diplomat. Thousands and thousands attending and viewing football on the grounds that some of which have disappeared into abandon.
But I think let's talk about some of the things that we would like to see. Or offer some suggestions that we think can bring back Trinidad football to what it used to be.
The president has touched on several of them. Just identify them. Having a proper support and base structure and running the association through its zones, strengthening the zones. He has mentioned it. I know he has had discussions with the government officials. There's a lot of buildings and so on. The zones don't have an office. The Ttfa, bar the House of Football, was squatting at the stadium and named after a Trinidad and Tobago track athlete who left Trinidad for a football scholarship and turned at the Atobota. but you know they were all built for hosting the FIFA Under-17 Football World Cup. One is named after a footballer. Dwight York, the one in stadium, in the Tobago, at Bacolet. No, let's get serious. The Ttfa may even have to have its own construction division or company and sit with all that is vested now under Heritage Petroleum in terms of the land assets where these venues were, to find funding and build stadium and training complexes.
But you hit the nail on the head for me, because the strongest zones we had was POSFL and SFL, who does not exist anymore right now.
No.
So SFL, they all had their own ground because it's forest, Palo Seco, Shell, everybody had their own ground, well manicured, strong teams, strong zone.
Yes.
That needs to come back, definitely. And Portsmouth Football League needs to come back.
Well, the best infrastructure or the best structure and land assets for football throughout the zones is the South Football Association. All those assets that you mentioned. Some overgrown with bush.
But that is not SFA, that's SFL.
That's SFL. And because you had the SFA at Skinner Park,
Right.
which were the Lantern Giants and the Juniors and so on, which were the
Searchers.
popular clubs.
Right.
And then came the energy sector who invested
In
in the sport. And they created what was the SFL.
Right.
Now, a similar thing was undertaken. Now, that's the 50s, eh? A similar thing was undertaken in the 70s by a then referee, Reginald Wooding, who worked at Lever Brothers. And he got together to form what was called the Industrial League. And it nearly destroyed the Port of Spain League with all our clubs, Malvern and Maple and Coles and Shamrock. And the reason that, because just as Malvern founded what is the Defense Force team today, by granting it 7 of our players, the captain, Carlton Franco, didn't go, he migrated to Canada. Kelvin Barassa, Clive Niles, the host of them, Tim Lampkin, etc. And I always tell the Army players, always remember and be good to your parents, because Malvern gave birth to you.
Put him out on pause for a second. We need to take a break at this point in time. Viewers will be right back after the show.
I would love to hear on Lafferty and the guys with that now. And the present team with some good players.
We'll be right back after the short break.
Trinbago Heritage, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NCBNTT Television Network.
Hi, I am Nigel. Quote Me Today is your daily motivational segment to start your day right. Join me Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. right here on NCBN. Remember, wake up with a smile. Today is your day.
That's why when we festin', we just bet God when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man a strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle right now when we festin', we just bet God when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man a strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle, push up your hand.
Welcome back, viewers. Selby, we talk so much, and time is running out on us, and we you know, always when we get together, it's
you know,
we don't have enough time.
all we're missing is Warren and Kusi.
Right. You know, so but all we talk about, and we have Kieran Edwards, who is a young guy who very, very ambitious,
Yeah.
and I know to support our football, finance is always an issue, and is the biggest thing that we need to make this happen for us. All the other countries you see going around, Jamaica, the US, everybody has the finance. How are we going to make that happen? How are we going to get that?
Well, I did mention Reggie Wooding and Lever Brothers, and his formation at that time in the 70s of an industrial league in the north, similar to what transpired 20 years before in the south in the energy sector. And what that created was almost a run on the Port of Spain League, because here were guys, based on their football prowess, given jobs at all the factories. Neil Massey had their car plant at Mover. Whitco, Nestle, Console Appliances, Metal Box, Lever Brothers itself, Carib Brewery, all the factories employed, and some of them had their own grounds as well, adjacent to the factory or wherever they had it, they could site it. And you had Biwi, and all had a team. Yeah? And for the first time in the 70s, guys in the north were being employed based on their sporting prowess. Now, you ask, and that's creating jobs, jobs for life. And you ask, where is the funding going to come from? And it is more than 5 decades in this country that what is the bandied about, what I consider absolute nonsense and rubbish of the corporate sector and corporate sector and corporate sector. Do not waste my time with any national corporate center nonsense. It is what is the biggest sector outside the energy sector in the Caribbean at the level at which it is, which has from calypsonians, entertainers, actors, musicians in the entertainment sector, to all your sporting disciplines, categorize them as beggars. Why? Because you write to them and invite them for an opportunity to invest, for a return on their investment. And they respond to you, telling you why they can't help you, as if somebody came to you begging for help. And that is where we have reduced the entire Caribbean sector, not just Trinidad. You know, Bob Lally was a good footballer. You know, Vivian Richards and Mervyn, his brother, and I, we played football together in Antigua. You know, several of the guys, Sheldon and all the boys, they could have gone cricket or football. Bernard Julian, BJ. We have deprived this region of investment. I must say though, at one time, Neil and Massey Corporation considered having a track and field event, which was rained out on the weekend. But there is no entity in the Caribbean, or in particular in this country, who has said, I am in the business of investing in sport or investing in the entertainment sector for a return on investment. So what you have is several promoters and the like, and not meeting with your national association to do just that. and we resign to the fact that we go to our world governing bodies for money, or the government of Trinidad and Tobago for money. And as you very well know, the government of the United States of America is not the major investor in sport in America.
Right.
It's all private and corporate. We haven't got there, so I am proposing, I have proposed, and we have discussed within VFOD the question of approaching the government of Trinidad and Tobago and all governments through the Caribbean, the window being CARICOM, to have a 2.5% tax levy on the gross revenue of all corporations. Take that money, put it into a sport and entertainment fund, and you will create jobs throughout this whole region in what is a vast resource of what is our God-given talents to facilitate those willing to put in the necessary work to earn a desired pay and to go to the global level. So I don't want to hear the National Corporate Center. No, don't, please. We had that. Caroni, back in the day, the whole of St. Benedict's, Paulie Lewis brought the whole of St. Benedict's into Caroni Limited. Caroni understood that.
Port Authority from the north.
Port Authority in the north. I told them, if Edison Arantes do Nascimento, with his same talent and ability, our own Pelé of Brazil was born in Port of Spain, Trinidad. At age 23, he would have been lost to Trinidad football and would have best enjoyed a good job on the port.
Yes.
With
Baby in the
Big Ben and Vernon Green and our own, oh Lord, how I could get him secretary on the port, man. Freddie Ferrer.
Yeah.
And those fellas, that is who carried him over on the port. Maple was customs.
Right. That too.
Yeah. And so I don't want to hear corporate sector in Trinidad. Don't waste my time. We will get corporate funding from the international global companies who already invest in the business of sport and invite them into the Caribbean. And don't all the chambers of this and chambers of that and chambers of the other, don't waste my time with that. They had the opportunity. From today, this new era, it is onward and upward. And then they would understand what is global. Did Marshall Montano have a corporate, a bank? Tell me, look, has any of the bank in the financial, not the banks, just the financial sector as a whole, approach Marshall Montano, Bungie Darling, starting from there, go back to Sparrow and all the guys, Lord Kitchener, the Alwyn Roberts, to say, sir, we would like to work with you. We know of your portfolio. We would like to have the first rights to your portfolio and hold it as assets against which we provide lines of credit for your undertakings and adventure. Any of them? But I'll tell you, and that happened in the, where am I now? In the 80s. Our own, from Ghana, Eddie Grant, approach Roaring Lion and purchased his portfolio. Eddie Grant, based on his knowledge of what transpired in England, came home, based in Barbados at the time, and purchased. It's the first time, and this is Roaring telling us, he lived in Mont Lambert at the time, and Roaring on the fence sitting down and telling us, boy, it's the first time in my whole life, in the history of Calypso, that I have seen money in this amount. And he lived in Europe. He had his children. His wife was from Sweden and so on. So I don't want to hear the corporate sector in Trinidad. There are those who certainly the new president would have the patience and time to make his package and present it to them and sit down and wait. But while he is doing that, I would be the first to urge him and to recommend to him for his decision that you pursue with alacrity the international market for those already involved in the business of financing all your plans and the like. Don't be held back waiting on Trinidad corporate or Caribbean corporate.
And external support is always stronger than the local support. Why? Because it's just a US
That's
dollar.
reality. It is the reality.
Yeah.
It is the reality. And you have companies, the energy sector did it before.
But I think the local support or the local businesses lost interest for whatever reasons. I don't need to get into it.
Yes.
So for whatever reasons, they lost interest in
Yes.
in putting the money because,
Yes.
and then the standard was going down as well.
Yes.
So they had a lot of reasons why they don't want to invest.
Yes. Well,
Now it's for them to get.
well, at the national, at the community levels, that decision that was taken to form the National League and so on back in '74 took away from the communities what was the community football leagues with minimum 1,500, 2,000 persons attended on an afternoon and midweek weekends. Yeah? And what you had then was in community economic activity and the like. With your bars, your pawn lady, your nuts, your this, all the things, the restaurants were going and the clubs. And we have to go back to the communities, as the president has mentioned, and we have to go back to playing the football in the communities. And that is a fight that you will have with some of the associations, member associations. I will reference here the primary school and the secondary schools league. There is absolutely no reason why those leagues are not played within their zones competitively and come up with zonal team or club winners who will then compete interzone to come up with what is your best product. And I say that because even within those communities, what transpired before was as college students, as schoolboys, you were playing with the adults. And the fellas would tell you, you're playing big man football now, so brace for yourself.
Right.
And that gave the far more mature national player. As a matter of fact, the national team, for quite a while, had at least 4, ideally 6 players who were college-age players who were able to hold their own in the national senior team, playing with the big men 10 and 15 years your senior. That is not transpiring now. That has taken our football backward. That has affected the attractive product and the cutting edge that the crowds came out to see in the communities, and then to support their community heroes at the zonal level, at the North-South game, which was a sellout here in Trinidad, and the like.
Think we could get back to those days?
It is the only way back. There is no shortcut. There is no quick fix. That is, you have to prove yourself. Let me tell you, Dwight York, for the present generation, Dwight York played for the national under 13 team at age 12 to become the Dwight York, Manchester United hero. You have to do and follow the process. Steve David. I don't know if you know Steve David. You remember him?
Kind of.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Following in the footsteps of Warren Lager and the boys, and went out to the USA at the highest level. You think it started there? With the hard work in Point Forte, in the league. And then the Point Forte crowd saying, we're going up to see our boys. And I'll tell you, one thing I would like to close with is the fact that it was the vision of the first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to have as his second phase of the revolution the sport and entertainment sector take its rightful place. He had a vested interest in the steel band movement and in the sports clubs. He was a member of the Maple Sports Club. He was Woodbrook, yes. Malvern is all friends. His all QRC is who was Malvern, formed the Malvern boy, the Woodbrook QRC boys. And what he did to celebrate the independence of Trinidad and Tobago in 1962 was ask the Ttfa president then, Eric James, to invite the champions of the Caribbean, Suriname, to come to Trinidad to play against the Trinidad national team for the Trinidad and Tobago independence celebration. They put galvanized all around the savannah, the grandstand, played at the grandstand. They played the second game down in Oil Fields. No, right here, Point-de-Pierre.
Okay.
In Guaracara at Guaracara Park.
Anyhow, we got to end here, but...
Yes, and we have some fellas who are still alive, members of the V4, who played on that national team, Tim Lampkin and the guys. Yeah.
Selby Browne, I want to thank you so much for being here, bud. And I wish we had 2 more days to talk, but we will continue.
And let me see, let me put it out,
Appreciate
Let them know our call from since we little boy. Sweet Boots!
NCBNTT.
Yeah. Lovely.
NCBNTT, thanks for the opportunity. Viewers, as usual, thank you for tuning in every Tuesday night at 8. And we have a Facebook page. You can check us out. We have an email address, feelerdreamtt@gmail.com. That's where you can drop us a line. This show has ended. Go in peace. I'm Steve David. That's Selby Browne. Good night. Thank you.